Drake Powell goes higher than expected, and Carolina needs him to show up and show out in Brooklyn.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, June 27th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for joining us to get your first listen or watch of the day to get your weekend going the right way. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great insiders as well. You guys back from the dead. It's the return of the prodigal son. Now, it's our guy, Coach Pac Kilby. He is here with us. Man, they've just been having some good family time. Pac, I don't know how open you've been about what you guys are doing right now, but man, just so glad you've been able to have some good family time. But man, really excited to have you back on and get things going this summer.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Kind of to touch just a little bit, we're fostering a child right now, and so we've been able to spend a lot of quality time together, and that's been amazing. But it's good to be back.
Yeah, baby. So happy for you guys. It's such a fun family journey. Been obviously praying for you guys and journeying with you. So man, so exciting. Where we're headed on the show today, you all, Drake Powell gets drafted on Wednesday night. Literally, as we were prepping our show notes, we're like, come on, Drake, get drafted so we can talk about it. But also, it's been now 2 decades since Carolina has had a top 5 pick. We'll talk about that. Pac Kilby lives in Oklahoma City and has some interesting comparisons between the champion Thunder team and what Carolina might be able to do this year. And not this season, but next, we're going to get an extra regular season game coming. Speaking of which, we also have now an updated date on the Georgetown game. We'll talk about that in that segment as well for you. So, Pac, let's start right into this thing. Drake Powell goes on Wednesday night, first round. We needed that. Carolina needs all the good juju they can get, but traded to the Nets. He was drafted by the Hawks. That means he's going to team up with Cam Johnson. Pac, let's start here. Why is it important for Carolina for Drake Powell to be a good NBA player?
Well, quite frankly, we just haven't put a lot of good NBA players out lately. And now we've had guys be great college players and fizzle out as it pertains to success in the NBA. We've had guys that have been pretty good college players go on and have pretty good NBA careers. But it'd be nice if we have someone that just really starts to stand out, for North Carolina. And I think, Kobe White has done some of that. He's had some big time games, especially this past year, and made some real noise. But we need some clout, with the draft and with putting guys in the league. It just seems, really in the Roy Williams era, maybe early on he recruited highly and put some guys out. But then after that, he kind of went to more of the like getting guys that would be there long term.
Yep.
And it seems like Hubert's kind of continued that for the most part. So it'd just be nice to have a guy go get in the draft and kind of cut out some of the negative talk that surrounded Carolina with, well, they're not putting guys in the league. They're not successful in the league, and that negative recruiting that people are doing against us, hopefully that shuts some of that down.
And honestly, I think some of that wasn't even coached by Coach Williams' choice. I think a lot of it was the negative recruiting that you just mentioned from the NCAA scandal. And, like I remember Brandon Ingram, for example, was like, I probably would have gone to Carolina, but this whole thing, and I didn't know, so I went to Duke, right? And so I think there's some of that associated with it. But, good grief. Carolina just doesn't have many standout people. Cam Johnson, we'll talk about him more in a second, I think has been a nice breath of fresh air. Obviously, he's not initially a Tar Heel, but man, I think he is now. I think he claims Carolina probably over Pitt. And Kobe, man, what a big year he had. That's been great for Carolina, but we need more of those people, right? And, there were some of the highlight guys, but also where are the Danny Greens out here winning 8 gajillion championships? Just those solid dudes that can do a bunch. Pac, to the point about Cam Johnson, what's interesting is, again, Drake drafted by the Hawks, but will be traded to the Nets, where he will team up with Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson also drafted higher than I think a lot of people expected. We've talked about, will Drake go on night one? We don't know. And not only did he, but comfortably, I would say, going 22nd. We all remember, speaking of Kobe White, they're like, oh my gosh, bro, what a Cam, that whole thing on the dais after he got drafted. But how do you think that Cam can help expectations set for Drake?
Well, I think Cam, Cam has things similar to Drake that you can't teach. They have height, they have length, and really, Cam shoots the ball. Cam's known for shooting the ball really well, right? Drake is not known for that necessarily. He's more so known for his defense and what he can do athleticism-wise for your team. But it's not like Drake is a bad shooter. Drake can shoot. And so I think there's a lot of similarities between the two as far as the things that they have that can't be taught or coached. That's probably a big reason why both of them went higher than they were expected to.
Yeah.
And with that, like you said, you used the word expectation. I think with that does come some expectation. And those two guys being Carolina guys, being on the same roster, having Cam there, that's probably going to be a huge help for Drake because with the Carolina family, you can only imagine there's already a connection there. There's already a relationship there. So that'll be a comfort level for Drake, and he'll be able to get in there and rely on him and, have him in his corner as he tries to navigate the expectations and the, just getting accommodated or acclimated to the NBA grind.
And especially being in New York, man, it's a different kind of media market up there, and you got to be ready to go. Obviously, the Carolina, it's not Big Blue Nation, Kentucky, but the Carolina fan base is all in and invested, and that obviously helps some as well. Now, along with this Pac, and gosh, again, congrats to Drake, man. This is massive. It's so good for him. So happy for him. Along with this, Dadgum Box Scores had put out a couple days ago on Tuesday, first round NBA draft picks since 2004 from Duke and UNC. And what you notice from that is that Carolina has not, Pac Kilby, had a top 5 pick since the 2005 draft when Marvin Williams went 2 overall and Ray Felton went 5th overall. Pac, I looked a little farther. In that 2-decade span, Carolina's only had 3 top 10 picks. Brandon Wright went 8th in 2007. Harrison Barnes went 7th in 2012. And then the aforementioned Kobe White went 7th in 2019. So in the past 20 years, Carolina has had 3 top 10 picks, 0 top 5 picks. So, and that tweet got some notice. Matt Norlander, CBS Sports, quote tweeted it. Some other people quote tweeted it, and it's made the rounds a little bit now. And so, Pac, my question to you is this about it. That gets attention because the Dukes of the world, Duke just had 3 top 10 picks in this draft. But at the same time, you look in that 2-decade span, and Carolina has done just fine on the court. Thank you very much. Obviously, it's been topsy-turvy the last couple of years. But are you concerned with those lack of elite-level draft picks, or are you more concerned about, I don't care, I just want to win basketball games? Where would you fall on that?
Now, I'd be curious to see kind of what everybody else thinks. I think I'm probably the one that's in the minority here. And I'm the second of those options. Okay. I want results. If Carolina's winning basketball games, here's the deal. I'm a North Carolina basketball fan. I am. What happens to those guys after they leave North Carolina? Yes, I root for them, but I'm not invested in that like I am in North Carolina basketball. So yes. I want North Carolina to win games. And that's why, there was always the hoopla of Coach K getting one and dones and Calipari's getting one and dones. Who cares? Roy Williams is the one winning in March. And, that was kind of my philosophy. And that tweet kind of got me fired up because, first of all, I don't think he got the right amount of someone tweeted it and said that Carolina had been to two national championships and 5 Final Fours. I think it's 3 national championships and 6 Final Fours, if I did my math right, in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
and I don't think there's
it was
any
Matt
other
Norlander. He said 2 now. Yep.
And he was wrong on that, I believe. I think it was 3 and 6. And there's no other program that's done that in the last 20 years. So if you ask me, I'd rather have the success. Now, am I saying I don't want to put guys in the league? Absolutely not. If we can get success at Carolina and put them in the league and then be successful there, well, that's great. That's the best of both worlds. But if I
had to pick one or the other,
I'm going with Carolina all day. That's where my investment is.
Look, I don't know if this is what he meant, but I wonder if Matt Norlander is meaning since the 05 draft. And that would be the draft in which they had one of those 3 championships in one of those 6 Final Fours. So I think because it's been 20 drafts since then, that's why he said 2 national championships and 5 Final Fours. So gotcha. I don't need to defend it, but I think that's what he means by it. Ultimately, that's a moot point because I'm right with you, Pac. Those are my feelings exactly. One of the things I always say is, congrats, Duke. You won the offseason. Congrats, Kentucky. You won the offseason. I don't care because then our guys, Luke May, a walk-on for crying out loud, goes out and buries you in the Elite Eight. Okay, Duke, have all your offseason championships. We ended Coach K's career in the Final Four, right? It's like that matters more to me. I'm right with you, Pac. You so well said. I got all riled and fired up about that as well. Ultimately, congrats to Drake Powell, and let's go win a whole truck ton of basketball games this year. How about it?
Let's do it.
All right. Speaking of winning a truck ton of basketball games, the Oklahoma City Thunder just won the NBA championship with some unique lineups. And guess what? In Coach Pac Kilby's opinion, the Heels might just have the personnel to do the same thing. We'll look at that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time, have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands, and that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without all the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food and drinks and merch, or even invite a bigger group to come along with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. How about the All-Star game? That's coming up pretty soon in Atlanta, where I'm a big fan of the Braves, but they're not very good right now. Anyway, you can get tickets right now for $386 to the All-Star game. But again, those will go down the closer we get. So just wait and see what you can get. Game Time has last-minute tickets like 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. Pac, big congrats to the Oklahoma City Thunder, your hometown team there. Great stuff. I still don't see how they never won a championship in the KD, Russ, Harden, Ibaka years. That was just a stacked team, and it's insane. Anyway, they finally do it. They win a championship, bring it home. Poor Tyrese Halliburton, man. I got to feel for that guy. But this week you texted me the following text, and I quote, "I really like how the Thunder play without a true PG," and we don't mean Paul George, we mean point guard. "Would love to see UNC adopt that big, long lineup some next year," end quote. Pac Kilby, you have just compared the Tar Heels to the reigning world champions. Explain your reasoning. Talk about what you meant.
Well, I think there's going to be some similarities in the roster build, and that's a great thing, actually. I don't know how much the rest of the Carolina fan base watches the NBA or the Oklahoma City Thunder even. There's been a lot of talk about how it's a small market team, and, I don't know how many people get a chance to watch them. But, man, they are fun to watch because they have that positionless style. They have length everywhere. One possession, it might be SGA bringing it up. The next it could be J-Dub. The next it could be Caruso. The next it could be Case and Wallace. There's so much freedom in that. And to me, I could see Carolina adopting a similar strategy, just because like even Kyan Evans, who we project to be the starting point guard for North Carolina, he's really kind of a combo guard, if we're being honest about it.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah,
I just think there's a world where Carolina goes and we use the length that we went and picked up, the way we've changed our roster. I think there's a world where we go heavy on the length and play more of a positionless basketball, and it's more free flowing. It could be Seth bringing it up one possession. It could be Evans bringing it up a possession, Jonathan Powell, whoever. But it's more of, let's get the ball down the floor and let's play more of a conceptual style of basketball, concepts, creating advantages for ourselves and then keeping the advantage after we've created an advantage. So the Thunder are some of the best at that. And I'm not yet comparing us to them as far as whether or not we'll be champions. But I think there's some similarities in the roster build that could bode well for Carolina if we adopt similar strategies.
I want to ask you about that concepts idea, because I think that's something that a lot of people might not be fully aware of what that means. But before I ask you that, would you give me a sample lineup that you think that would work well with? Because obviously Carolina, let me just preface that by saying I think there's a lot of good lineup flexibility that Carolina has, which probably lends itself to what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's flexibility. I could see it being anywhere from Kyan and Evans and Seth Trimble with Stevenson, Wilson, and Veesaar. I could see a world where it's like Seth Trimble, Jonathan Powell, Stevenson, Wilson, Veesaar. It could just, think about the length in that. Veesaar can step out and shoot the three. Stevenson can shoot the three. We know what Wilson can do offensively. So there's there's a lot you can do. And then imagine trying to score on that length. That's what really stands out when you watch the Thunder. It's like anytime someone attacks them, when their defense is set, there's arms and hands everywhere. There's deflections. Teams can never get in a rhythm. They can never make a straight line pass. It's just constant disruption. And Carolina could have some of that. They really could if they utilize it the right way, and the players take advantage of the gifts that they have. Their length and athleticism. So that, I guess, to answer your question, that would be some potential lineups right there that I think could be effective.
Yeah, man, I love it. There are, we often talk about looking for like an 8-man rotation that you want at least to be able to utilize. And I think Carolina could have that quite easily. And we haven't even named Derek Dixon. We haven't even named Zay Dennis and Zayden Hyde, Jaden Young, which I think with like Young, he's really more of just a depth piece that,
I didn't even name Luka Bogavac in that.
Or Bogavac. Right.
That's a possibility there too. I mean, what, 6'5", 6'6"? There's a world where he's in that too. So there's a lot we can do with that.
Yeah, man, I absolutely love that. Okay, Pac, would you say a little bit there about, you mentioned concepts. What do you mean by that? Okay,
so here's how I'll explain this in Carolina basketball terms. We love Carolina basketball. We love the fast break. Why do we love the fast break? We love the fast break because it's advantage Carolina. We've got the basketball and we're getting it up the court before the defense is set, meaning we have numbers. We have, a greater chance of scoring the basketball quickly when we're in transition. To me, the way I would describe conceptual basketball is essentially creating a numbers advantage for yourself in the half court. So in the coaching world, we call that creating an advantage. And then we teach our players how to keep the advantage, keeping the defense, on their heels, basically, and constantly in scramble mode. And this team, you could get into that a lot of ways. Like the easiest way to explain that would be, what a paint touch does. If you get to the lane off of a drive, and collapse a defense, you've created an advantage. Now it's up to the players to keep that advantage. Well, with this team, we could do it in a lot of different ways. It could be off of a paint touch. It could be dribble penetration from some of our guards. But it could also be a post up that teams have to honor, and that they have to double, or they have to rotate on their help side, or whatever. We can create advantages for ourselves. And so if you watch the Thunder play, where I got going with this is a lot of people watch it and go, man, the Thunder play a lot of ISO ball and they don't move the ball enough. And sometimes that's actually true. But also all they do is, they might just run a cut through and open up a gap for SGA to get downhill, and then he always makes the right play with the ball. And so they use concepts in that regard. And I think Carolina could do something similar. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
No, absolutely it does. I just it's something that has become more popular that I want to make sure we're continuing to put in front of fans so that everyone can understand some of what they're looking for when they watch games. And obviously we can talk more about that and give examples of it once the season gets rolling. All right, Pac, we are going to get, not this season, but next, one more regular season game. I love it. And I even want more than that. We'll head there to wrap up the show in just a second. Pac, on Wednesday, the NCAA Division I Council approved an increase from 31 to 32 regular season games beginning with the 2026-27 season. I want to get to that in just a second, because first, I want to mention something about this upcoming season. Folks, I am always tracking all our basketball games, and we've known something about nearly all 13 non-conference games for this year. There's one that, because of the ACC reduction to 18 games, we know nothing about yet. But then there were just two others that we didn't know something about. So we don't know the date for the NC Central game. And we knew that the Georgetown game would be in December. We didn't know the date, but Pac, now we do, because on Wednesday, Georgetown released their non-conference schedule. So that game is going to be Sunday, December 7th. That'll come the Tuesday before that is the game at Kentucky. And then Carolina, as of right now, is off till that next Saturday, December 13th, against USC Upstate. Do you like where that kind of sits coming off of the Fort Myers tip-off, ACC, SEC, and then you host Georgetown, kind of heading into, I believe, that 7th through the 13th is going to be finals break for the Tar Heels. So it's like Georgetown and then a break. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel okay about it. I mean, obviously it being at the Dean Smith Center is advantage Carolina. And yeah, it's kind of coming off of you're coming off of a rigorous part of the schedule there. But I'm not actually, to be completely honest, I'm not totally familiar with how good Georgetown is going to be this year. I know they've got some pieces and they've got a chance to be competitive. And Isaac, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there's some question marks there still to be answered for Georgetown. Yeah. And heck, you could say that about Carolina too.
That's true.
There's certainly some question marks. So, but I think it's coming in a good spot. It may be a place where we can come back home and we need to pick up a win. And, Georgetown's going to bring a good crowd, you would think. Bring some energy to the Dean Smith Center for the Tar Heels fans. So I like it. I think it's good. And obviously they're historically good. So that gives us Kansas in a home and home matchup there, and Georgetown. That's good. I love that for Carolina, and I hope we do more of that moving forward.
Yeah. Man, that's a good word. And I right with you, Pac. More of these home and homes. Neutral games are fine, but man, these are the ones that are really, really sexy. So let's have more and more of that. So Pac, let's get to this news then. Again, about moving from 31 to 32 regular season games. It's not a massive change, but I like it because it gives you more opportunity in the non-con to schedule more types of games, to choose how you want to go about doing it. Currently, it's been 31 regular season games. ACC dropping to 18 this year, so you get 13 non-con. Last year, it was just 11 non-con or in prior years because of the 20 ACC games. But now you're going to get 14 non-con games starting next season because of ACC going back to 18 and then adding this extra game. And so, Pac, I would love to get your thoughts on what that allows Carolina to do in the non-con schedule, having 14 different games available to them, whether it's home, road, or neutral sites opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly what you just said. It's opportunities. So we essentially have gone from, I think you said 11 opportunities in the non-con last year to 14, and you look at Carolina. I mean, we were right there on the bubble. There was the huge argument: should Carolina have been in, or should they not have been in? Well, in this situation where there's 32 total games, we would have had 3 more opportunities to prove ourselves. So when you look at it like that, I think it's a great thing. It's potentially more opportunities to do exactly what we just talked about with Georgetown, get more good home and homes. That's not just good for Carolina and Georgetown. That's good for college basketball. People want to see good, historically good teams play and compete against each other. So if there can be more of that, then I want it. So I think it'd be a good thing.
Yes. And gosh, like it does. Like, I love what you said there. Like, if Carolina has 2 more games last year against beatable opponents, I just think it's more of a no-brainer that they're in. And so if you can balance the craziness, the gauntlet of last year's schedule, with having some other winnable games where you can figure, like, if Carolina had more time ahead of those games to figure out more of who they were, I think they win more of them last year, right? Like, I think that's a reality. And so there's more balance you can have of home games, road games, neutral games. There's more balance you can have of elite high majors, of average high majors like Georgetown, of mid majors, of low majors, of doing MTEs as we see things evolving. And so I think all of that is great. And Pac, 2 other things I would say. Number one, the House settlement just passed, and Carolina, according to Bubba Cunningham, their budget's going up by $30 million next year. The athletic department, 1 more game gives you that much more money, right? And that, well, if it's a home game or a neutral site, I should say. And so that's part of why I'm like, why stop? Let's get up to 35 regular season games. Let's just get more and more data points and do it. The other thing from a scheduling standpoint that I would love to see, Pac, is last year and this upcoming year, Duke has played a non-con game in February. Last year, they played Illinois in MSG in February. This year, they're going to play Michigan in DC, where the Wizards play in February. And so maybe this is an opportunity to say, hey, let's shift the game the same way there's an ACC game in December. Let's shift the non-con game to February. Any responses to any of that, Pac?
No, I think that's a great point there. I wouldn't mind mixing up the kind of the monotonousness of the conference play and throwing a game in there. But I'll tell you, from a coach's perspective, something I just was sitting here just thinking of, 14 games of non-con is really great versus like the 11 we had this past year. Our team this year, look at Carolina's team this year, right? We've got pretty much every face is a new face, right?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
14 games to kind of find yourself versus 11. That's a huge difference before you get into conference play. So in this transfer portal world where, teams look completely different each year and they need time to find themselves, this 14 game non-conference is going to be huge before you get into conference play, where you really can kind of start to figure out where you're going to be in the tournament, if you're going to be on the bubble, if you've got a chance to secure a high seed. Those things are going to make a difference. So I'm sure coaches are thrilled about that extra time. Not that to say that the non-conference doesn't matter, but we know what conference play can do for you. So I think it's just a good period of time to find yourself. You really get to the thick of it.
Man, that's such a good point, Pac. Like, in those last year, I guess I should specify last year, because of the exempt game at Hawaii, that game didn't count. They actually played 12 non-con games last year, but it sounds like that's going away. But yeah, like if you have 11 non-con games and you have 7 against high majors or whatever on neutral sites and those kind of things, then you've only got 4 games. 2 years ago, Carolina had just 4 bye games, Pac. That's not enough in the transfer portal era to figure out who you are and role definition and all that you harp on so often. And so I love your point with your coach's hat on there. That's really, really wise. Thank you for sharing that. So we'll see how Carolina continues to put the schedule together. Obviously, as we said, one more non-con game we're waiting on this year, and then next year, 14 different non-con opportunities. That's going to be killer, and I can't wait to see how they utilize it. Pac Kilby, my man, it is great to have you back in the fold here. For those who are with us every summer, when we turn the calendar to July, each week, Pac and I do a roster preview episode where we'll look at one guy each week. And friends, next week, the calendar turns to July. So we'll either start that next week or maybe the week after. We'll look ahead, but just be ready knowing that that's on tap. If you've not already subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do that right now so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. If you have not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to see you in there. The link's in the show notes, free to join. And if you're not already a Locked On Tar Heels insider, man, we'd love to have you as part of that inside group going next level with this show. Want to remind you, as always, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday, but until then, peace.